Mexico, a country of more than 100 million people, but where more than 40% live below the poverty line. For so many, that poverty line ends here, at the border with the United States. On the other side stands opportunity, employment, and dreams of earning a higher wage. But standing in their way are groups such as this. This is American Border Patrol, US citizens doing their bit to keep illegals out. The organization is led by Glenn Spencer. His Arizona ranch sits directly on the border. Thanks to Glenn, anyone can patrol it via the internet.
This is one of American Border Patrol's remotely operated border cams. This camera is wireless and operated by solar power. So really, you could run this camera from your home in New York to watch the border, so that we can have thousands of Americans watching the border with real vigilance, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Glenn says the US government's Secure Border Initiative is a disastrous failure, and he's compiled hours of video footage to prove it.
This is the most highly policed area in the country, right? And we can walk through, even in daylight, right, with a huge atomic bomb on our back. And they wouldn't know it. They could stop it if they wanted to, but they don't want to. I will bet you there are at least 60 illegal aliens holed up, moving through the river, in the washes, right now. You have to understand, this goes on for 1,500 miles of the United States border, all along here. Now, people say, well, I don't see anybody. Well, they don't want to be seen.
And to make sure they are being seen, American Border Patrol is spending millions of donated dollars on surveillance equipment.
This is our Border Hawk UAV. UAV stands for unmanned aerial vehicle. And basically, it's not a lot different than a remote control airplane, except this has a computer inside of it. It flies by itself. And underneath, right down here, this is our little pan and tilt system here. This is one we designed and had built for us, and this allows us to look around 360 and interrogate a target, as it would be called, where you can look at something and stay on it as the plane's moving.
A former military man, Mike King knows how to catch the enemy. So when the Federal Aviation Authority stopped him flying unmanned aircraft, he simply changed tactics.
Plan B was to buy a real airplane, and so we did. We purchased a Cessna Tu-206, and but we get a lot of video that way. It's been an extremely effective tool for us to gather intelligence on what's happening on the border. Once you train your eye to see into the bushes, you start picking them out pretty easily as you fly along the border, especially on the south side as they're staging. They're aspiring illegal aliens at that point. There's a lot of it. You don't see it because they don't want to be seen, but they're everywhere. When we first got our thermal camera and put it on the house, and I turned it on, I swung it into the south, just looking into Mexico, there were people down there. And the next day there were people down there, and the next day there were people down there. And that every night I was catching groups of 20, 30 walking just west of the property here for like 3 weeks straight. In 3 weeks I caught like 500 people. I don't pretend like I'm not involved. You know, my conscience won't allow me. I see it happening, you're not getting into my country today. And I call the Border Patrol. So let them deal with it. We don't go out and tackle anybody.
This all may seem a little excessive, obsessive, or even slightly mad. But considering that more than $3 billion is being spent on border security, Glenn showed Al Jazeera exactly where that money isn't going.
We're approaching now the international border between the United States and Mexico. I'm now going to step into Mexico, and here we are. South of the border, down Mexico way. This is the first line of defense for the United States against an invasion from the rest of the world. It may stop some, but not many. Look how much money we're spending on defending the borders of Iraq. And our borders are wide open. And the government knows it. They're wide open to drugs, terrorists, and we've proven that. And they know it. But we're being sacrificed on the altar of globalism. They no longer believe in the nation state. They want to merge Mexico, the United States, and Canada together. And if a few thousand people are sacrificed in the process, that's just the price of doing business.
For many who have tried to cross and failed, they rest, receive medical treatment for cuts and blisters, and then get ready to do it all again. And here in Nogales in Mexico, people smuggling is big business.
I make between $1,500 and $2,000 for each person.
This man is a coyote. He won't show his face because he imports goods from the United States. But it's human exportation and exploitation where the real money is.
No, of course, coyotes don't feel responsible. They make the agreement here. Of course, if I'm paying to bring a woman with a child to the father, I'll try my best, because that's where I'll get my money. But you don't know what might happen on the journey. There is no guarantee. The only thing they're interested in is the money.
But therein lies the irony of the situation. The legal route into the US is fraught with as many obstacles as a trek through the desert.
Regardless of one's political allegiance, regardless of whether someone's an activist or a humanitarian, you can't turn away from those who need. I'll hear people say, well, I like the migrants, I just don't like the illegal migrants, or I like immigrants, just those who come in legally. And I think these people are either extremely naive or stubborn or turning their back on the situation, because there's no way these people can come in legally.
Though, as the saying goes, do good fences make good neighbors? Many would argue it's merely the symptoms that are being addressed, not the cause. And that is an issue for both sides of the fence.
I think it's shameful that a country as rich as Mexico is forcing poor people to come to another country to work. I would suggest that it is shameful that the President of Mexico calls people who go to other countries illegally to work heroes. And I think it's shameful that of both our countries that we can't get together and work out some sort of a sensible policy.
Melissa Owens lives with the reality of illegal migration. This is her backyard. It stretches as far as the eye can see.
Well, basically, Mexico is about 4.5 miles right over that ridge right there. This is due south.
But she's seen enough of the problems and trespassers on her land.
I would say we would have at least one group of 15 to 20 people at least every night. Sometimes groups of men, but sometimes women with children in their arms, waking me up. You know, they have no idea what to do, they're lost, they just need help. They've been told by their guides, their coyotes, that it's 6 miles to wherever they're going. They get up to the top of that ridge and this is the view they get. They look out across this valley. Obviously there's nothing.
But within the picturesque landscape, Melissa's ranch resembles a fortified compound, enclosed by razor wire to keep her safe and intruders out.
I had some men, I don't know how many it was, attempt to break in my house while I was here, and they were actually kicking in the door. And I was here by myself, and it was not a good experience. I think I'm pretty tough, but I don't particularly want to have that happen again.
Alone in such a remote environment, Melissa is prepared to defend herself and her property.
When I work away from the house, I wear a small handgun, and I have it on my belt almost all the time. I wear it for protection. I hope to God I never have to use this gun. I don't like having to wear it. It doesn't make me feel powerful or important. But on the other hand, if I am ever in a really bad situation, I want to be able to defend myself.
An emotionally charged issue, illegal migration has polarized Americans. It's an issue debated by politicians thousands of kilometers away in Washington, D.C., but one which affects individuals at the border directly.
If I didn't have the greatest respect for Hispanic culture, I sure wouldn't live on the Arizona-Mexico border. I'm not talking about race, I'm not talking about nationality, I'm talking about people who are on my land and in my country illegally. I don't want people I don't know walking across my land, and I don't care whether they're from Finland or Togo or Guatemala. I don't want them here.
It's a small war zone. People don't know what it is. I wish they would come here. At the moment, it's very quiet with beautiful big clouds, but at certain times of day, there are helicopters out here, there are horse patrols, there are ATVs around, there are guys that look like Darth Vader. They're completely covered in black, and they carry guns, and they're out here looking for people like the man we met today. It's another way to instill fear in Americans.